I've looked into stuff a lot over the years to try and explain why I feel so messed up and disconnected from everybody in the world. Times I've worried maybe I'm a psychopath, maybe I have no ability to feel at all. I know that isn't true because I get very upset about injustice, usually relating to animals more than people. I don't know why, they're cute. Um, I used to cry a lot as a kid. I think that for me, I've just adapted to the pain and suffering, and in my mind, it just isn't meant to be like this. And I find it really hard to accept that the world is the place it is, in terms of politics, who's running the world, the stuff that goes wrong, the cruelty. For me, that's very difficult to just be like, all right. But at the same time, I realise I don't really take much action. I just think about stuff like, oh, it could be so much better if I did all this. I'm not going to do anything, though, because I'm too busy and tired. And even dealing with people's energy in a working office, that can affect me. So how the hell am I going to deal with dogs who have been abused by their owners? But I would love to, honestly, I think that is something I need to do. Because as a type 4, which is what I'm talking about here, you want to find meaning. Not having meaning in your life, in the work you do, stuff like that, it ruins you. It makes you feel so lost. And every day you wake up being so depressed. So I recognise that, I don't really have a choice in the situation. I have to suffer, or I have to try and make a difference to the world in the way that I feel would be important. And that's different for other people. Some people are going to fight world hunger, homelessness, all of them good causes. But for me, I've always known it would be trying to help animals somehow. Talking about that for a sec, when I was vegan for several years, and to recap, I quit because my digestive issues became much worse and I felt more lethargic and worse. And part of my initial motivation with going vegan was to try and feel better health-wise. But after a while, I became very passionate as an animal rights person. I say that, I didn't really, again, take action. I argued with people on Twitter, farmers, about why dairy was rape. Which it frankly is, to be honest. Literally, you are impregnating a cow, killing its baby. It's messed up. You can't really argue it, in my opinion. But you get actual vegan activists who are quite social and go out there in the streets and try and convince people they need to change. Sometimes it works. Sometimes people aren't ever going to change. Doesn't really matter what you say. They're too close-minded, programmed, or they just have their beliefs and think that, in this case, animals are food. I don't eat much meat now. Me and my girlfriend Ellen, or fiance, we're still not married, we eat the same meals together. We have fish a couple of times a week. Technically that's meat, but people tend to separate the two, fish and, land mammals. Sometimes I have a burger if I go out, but most of the time we eat vegetarian meals. But yeah, I'm definitely not vegan anymore. But anyway, my point with this was that when I was vegan, it kind of, again, proved how type 4 I am, where back then, that was probably 6 years ago when I started being vegan, it was fairly rare. Now you get loads of vegan options on menus. And while I honestly, at the time, I wasn't thinking, I'm doing this because I want to be different to everyone. Consciously, that was never my motivation. I can see now that it partly must have been, because I'm a type 4, and I choose to always do stuff opposite. Sometimes someone will say something that I might agree with, but because they say it, I'm like, I'm going to find a way to disagree with you. Again, while I'm doing it, I'm like, am I trying to piss people off? And then I wonder why I don't really have many friends, and I feel like people don't really like me or warm up to me. And it creates a lot of pain. A lot of type 4s are fucking miserable. Depressive. Very creative, and often this is the case with creative types. Comedians, stand-up comedians, they're great on stage. They're great in their films or TV shows, but often when the camera's not rolling, that's when all the insecurity comes out. For me, one of the biggest battles was when I stopped being able to write songs, because I used to write songs and I thought, my songs are good. I might not have the best recording equipment, I might not be the best singer, but for me doing this all on my own with no guitar lessons, no singing lessons, I'm talented. I'm good at music. And I had a pride about it because, again, it was something that I felt, this is unique to me. This is something that makes me special, I guess. And that might sound cringe, again, I'm being super vulnerable here. But when I couldn't write songs anymore, because I don't know, I just had this block for years, I've not really written songs. Maybe it's a time factor, maybe it's just being stressed out from working and that. But it felt like part of me had died. I was like, who am I then if I can't write music? I can't be normal. And that's one of the biggest things that we have as a type 4. I cannot be an average person that just has a 9 to 5, just goes on holiday once a year, maybe has a kid, gets married, does all the traditional stuff. I can't just follow the same path and be like everyone else, because then I'm like a fucking sheep. Even with COVID, I've had a jab. I had my first jab. Even with that, I was like, I have to be aware that I'm looking for a way to be different here. I kept looking into like, oh, is it safe? It's not been out long. And a lot of people who are anti-vax are getting their information off of Facebook. You know, some article shared on Facebook or Twitter. And, you know, I know people that have had breast implants or Botox and cosmetic surgery that are like, I'm not having a vaccine because I don't want to put chemicals in my body. But it's, you know, it's easy to be influenced by stuff you see online, because how do you know it's safe? How do you know that Bill Gates ain't gonna track you? That bit was always bullshit to me, but I did fear that, you know, how much do we know about COVID at this point? We see the death toll, but how do we know all of these deaths are purely COVID? How do we know how dangerous it is, where some people say you need a test to, you know, figure out if you've even got it? Is it that bad if most people need to get a test to realize they have it? And when I was, because for me, I've had, some of you will know, but I had an issue where I took a medication prescribed by doctors and it, you know, fucked my health up. I really, when I was in the waiting room waiting to get my vaccine, I was like, I don't know if this is the good decision, man. Like, I'm reading the side effects. Part of your face might temporarily collapse or something like that. Like, you might have a stroke. Cool, sign me up for that, because I don't want to get COVID that I have not seen anyone suffer from directly, and all this information I'm getting is purely from the media. Anyway, probably going into a area which is only going to spark debate and conflict. But with that, I realised, like, oh, I'm probably just going to be like I normally am and go the opposite way to the majority. So I'm like, you know what? Most of the people, my family, have all had the jab at this point. I put it off for a little while. Let's just get it done. And in honesty, my mindset at that point was, I'm depressed, so if I die or get made worse by the vaccine, then I don't fucking care anymore. But I felt unwell for a few days. Apart from that, I haven't noticed any other issues, really. But yeah, I feel like I haven't talked much about being a type 4 yet. There is a lot to say, but one of the leading things for type 4 is envy. Not necessarily envy about status or people's material wealth. I mean, sometimes that's definitely the case for me, but it tends to be more so looking at other people that fit in. Someone that is liked and popular. You resent them because you're so envious. You want to be able to have that, but you know for whatever reason, it just ain't gonna happen. You know from years of experience that people don't really get you. People don't really like you. I watched this video the other day, and to be honest, I don't even know if I want to say this because it's so open. But I'm gonna, I guess. But this guy, I was like, fuck, that's specific. Like, so basically, my granddad, who I loved, like, he was such a good guy, such a funny man. Like, my dad's side, so my dad's dad. He died, one of the only few people that I've lost in my family so far. I've still got my other grandparents, but he died, I believe it was like 2000 and, I think it was 2007. See, my sister is great with this stuff. She'll always text me and be like, Granddad died 12 years ago today. I'm like, have you got this like on your phone as a reminder, or do you just are really good at remembering stuff? Because I'm too wrapped up in my own problems to think about what, you know, I should be aware of that, right? Anyway, I'm at the funeral and I feel weird because I'd already been struggling with like disconnect at that point and derealization, and I thought there's something wrong with my brain. Like and I felt like it was Accutane, the medication that I was prescribed, that screwed me up. And sometimes I still think that must have fucked me up, because I get messages from people even now that I don't participate in forums or really talk about that drug. I still get people email me out of the blue because they've seen posts I did years ago. And they're like, dude, it fucked me up too. But anyway, I'm at the funeral and we start to walk in, you know, where the casket, is that what we call it in Britain? What, you know what I mean, is being carried in. My dad and his brother, my uncle, and probably a couple other people are carrying it. And you know, most people don't get buried these days, they get burnt, I guess. I'm seeing my sister's just like crying her eyes out. My sister's quite an emotional person, not to bring her into my channel, but yeah, she can be quite, she's really loving and thoughtful, but she can also be very explosive and angry at times. But yeah, she's a very emotional person. She was crying a lot. My cousin, who lives in Ipswich, which is where my granddad and grandma are from, the granddad that died, he's you know, breaking down, and he was arguably a lot closer because he saw my granddad many times. You know, he would see him often, whereas me and my sister and sort of my dad's side and my mum wouldn't see that side of my grandparents that often. When we were younger, we lived in Ipswich too, and when we were growing up, we went to the beach with them and did lots of family things before phones and all of this shit ruined family life and connection. Yeah, you know, I'd see my granddad maybe a few times a year, Christmas, maybe birthdays, visit over the summer, stuff like that. But don't get me wrong, I loved him in, you know, every way. He was great. But when I was walking through there and I saw my cousin cry, probably for the first time, saw my sister crying, saw a lot of people crying, people I didn't even know, that knew my granddad, that respected my granddad, that worked with him, that had interests with him. He used to play bowls. A lot of people crying. I couldn't feel a thing. And it scared me because I'm like, why the fuck, what, do I not care that my granddad's dead? What the fuck's wrong with me? But then I watched this video by this guy, and he does videos about all the different types, and he's like a doctor or something. Anyway, he gave an example where he said you could go to a funeral as a type 4 and everyone around you is upset, and you, being a type 4, go the opposite. You're not like feeling happy, but you feel like, what's wrong with these people? Can they not handle that old people die? When you're in a different situation, again, this was so relatable, and I was like, well, that explains, to a degree. It doesn't necessarily explain why I'm like this, and I wish I could figure it out and change, but at least, again, influences this whole Enneagram as being beyond just like some little personality test. But another time was when I'm with my family, like my mum's side of the family. We would go to my grandma's every Christmas, pretty much, just having a normal time. And like, I do have a tendency to get depressed, but there was no reason that day, really. But everyone around me seemed to be having a great time, chatting, laughing, you know, maybe drinking, eating the food. I can't remember if at that point I was going through anything particular in my life, probably not. But I felt really detached. I felt like I don't fit in here. They're all happy. I feel like I'm on the outside looking in. That is so often what I'm feeling as a type 4, and probably something you'll relate to if you're watching this because you're a type 4. In the end, I start crying, and I walk out on Christmas Day, meant to be a happy occasion. Spend time with your family while you can, yeah? Good food, time off work, all the good stuff. I go for a walk, and I'm seeing trucks go by, and all I can think is, I want to die. I don't know why, but I want to die, and I felt quite frantic. I think my sister called me, and I felt embarrassed because I stormed off in tears, and people were going to be like, why is he crying? I didn't even know. Didn't know. But this guy who did this video is like, occasions where everyone else is happy, you feel the opposite. Like, what the fuck is that? What kind of curse is that? Hey, dude, when everyone else is upset, you're going to be like, feeling fine. But when everyone else is having a great time, you're going to feel really depressed. Have fun. So yeah, I'm looking into this type 4 shit, man, this Enneagram stuff. I just downloaded a new audiobook that I think is going to get quite deep into it. I hope there'll be some helpful stuff. But a lot of it's just recognizing that you have these certain tendencies and not necessarily knowing why they're there, but trying to work around them. You know, as type 4 is like the being a vegan thing, you have this inclination, I guess, to sometimes put yourself on a pedestal and think, I'm better than other people. Yeah, I'm this musician. I have this regular job, but outside of this, I write fucking great songs. I could be so much more. I'm just waiting for someone to recognize my talent right now. Simon Cowell, call me up, bitch. Got some songs for you. If he heard me, he'd probably be like, "Yeah, it's average. See you later." But on the other side, you have this inferior complex where you feel like, I'm trash. Everyone hates me and they should hate me because I'm shit. I'm so shit. And then you get into this mentality where, like, really, like, feeling sorrow for yourself and pity, like, oh, if only the world was different and people could understand me. Nobody understands me. And I'm not trying to, like, say all type 4s are bad. Like, we definitely have some qualities. I'm trying to think of some right now. But we do. Like, for me, I don't know if this is even a type 4 thing, but I'm very conscientious. Like, I was at the cinema the other day watching The Rock's new film. It was shit. I hated it. Jungle Cruise. Inauthentic characters, which, again, being a type 4, you are gonna put pride in honesty and, like, truthfulness. And when you see a film where the actors are, like, clearly just, I don't know, being characters rather than it feeling... There are films that feel real. Films with real emotion, like Mrs. Doubtfire. Obviously, you could say, well, it's not, like, real in a way, but there are moments in there, thanks to Robin Williams, that are so heartfelt. This film, Jungle Cruise, that they spent $200 million on, is just another shitty Hollywood film that we didn't fucking need. Afterwards, I looked up some reviews. I'm like, there are a bunch of 1 stars. There are people who were actually switched on and knew this was garbage. But then most of the reviews are like, great film, really wonderful effects. Yeah, the effects are good. They had $200 million, but the film sucked. Like, I don't often go to the cinema disappointed, but during that film, I was like, halfway through, I want to walk out. They need to stop casting Dwayne for every fucking role. He plays the same character. I've always liked The Rock. But seriously, he's got $400 million. Cast someone else who can actually express some talent instead of, hi, I'm The Rock and I'm the same in every fucking film I do. Fast and Furious 7. Like, stop remaking films and making them worse. Anyway, what's my point? I had popcorn. Or, no, I didn't. I had sweets. I had, like, rustly bags. And I'm just very conscientious. That was a weird way of explaining that I'm careful about opening bags. Like, I had to tell you the film sucked, but some people, I've realised, are very inconsiderate. They don't even necessarily mean to be, but they're loud. They're really fucking loud and invasive. I, type 4 or not, I'm not sure, but I am very much like, how am I affecting other people? Because I know how people are making me feel. That might be an empath thing or a HSP. There are so many different labels. Trying to think if I've got anything else to say before I wrap up this extremely long video. I say long. Some videos I watch are like over an hour. I watch a lot of podcasts on YouTube. They're like 2 hours long. But for me, 20 minutes is a long time for me to be talking because I'm not that interesting. That's pretty much all I can think to say for now. Let me know your experiences, please, as a type 4. Mine, I don't know if I said at the start, is the 5 wing, I think I did say. Which means I am quite, I think, analytical. Whereas the type 3 is more the achiever type that will go out there and hit all their goals in a way to try and seek validation. As a type 4, your main motivation is to be an individual, to be unique, to stand out, to make a difference maybe in the world. And your main fear is that you don't matter, that you're not special, and that you are just a normal person who has to do all the normal shit and, you know. I think a lot of type 4s want to be like famous and rich and kind of put on this pedestal. But anyway, thank you for watching. Peace.